Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Help Awaken. We present our live Help and Awaken line today and a discussion on judgment. So, hopefully, Kelly will catch up and get on the right page soon. Help Awaken YouTube channel, and get a comment in there. So this morning we're going to have a discussion on judgment and the sneaky ways that ego tends to fool us with judgment. Good afternoon, Jennifer. Glad to see you made it. So it's afternoon where you are. See, we're still in the morning here. Still early in the day. Well, not early. We've been busy this morning already. On the Sundays, we do all the lawn care and maintenance for the strata here. So we're up and about. Oh, look! 15 feet away. She made it. So, if there are no pressing questions, or if nobody has a question, we're going to start talking right away about judgment and all the ways that judgment sneaks into our lives, okay? And, actually, that's kind of funny because Kelly and I were talking about spirit animals the other day, and she asked me what I thought her spirit animal was. And the one thing you don't want to do with me is like ask me an open-ended question like that, because I'll I'm too much of an imp, so I'll go for it. So I started laughing right away, and I said, well, I'm going to have to check first. I'm not sure if your spiritual animal can be extinct or not. Because, of course, the first thing that came to mind was the dodo. So we were in bed talking about it, and we were just laughing. We were laughing so hard we were crying, actually. It was pretty funny. So we're going to talk about all the ways that judgment sneaks into our lives, okay? And why do we have to be careful about judgment? Well, there are a lot of reasons, but the biggest reason of all, I personally think, is as a reflection of how we view our Creator, okay? And this is why it's really important. Hi, Cindy. Nice to see you, too. Well, in case you missed it, we figured Kelly's spirit animal's the dodo. The fact that the last one was killed in 1952 doesn't really mean anything, apparently. You can still have an extinct spirit animal. So that's wonderful. It really is. Way to go, sweetie. So, as I said, definitely unique, honey. Yeah, everyone in this universe is a one-of-a-kind. And like I said, in my case, thank God, that's a really good thing. You could not imagine two of me in this universe. We'd have to get a bigger universe. So, judgment. And the as I said, for me, the reason... Oh, Cindy says she already has the dodo, honey. Maybe you guys could share. I've always seen judgment as a reflection of how we view our Creator. And if we look into the Old Testament, which, sits very much in the Western and European psyche, okay, in the subconsciousness, in that collective subconsciousness that we all share, the idea of a judgmental, wrathful God is prevalent. It is a God who demands blood sacrifice, who will, kill you for violating one of the laws. And this is where our view of judgment has risen out of. And if you don't believe that, just look around you really carefully. I see that judgment firsthand in scores upon scores of Christians, literally millions of them, whose judgment on you is that if you don't believe the way do, you're going to hell. And we take that judgment And we forward that base idea of a judgmental creator out into the world. And what happens is, of course, we decide to have children. And we teach that same condition, that same conditional relationship, that same judgmental relationship. We teach them to it right from day one. We literally entrain them into that same judgmental attitude. You know, you hurt me. You did this to me. You're bad. You're good. There's something wrong with you. There's something right with you. You know, our judgments are far-reaching in every category, and we need to really understand the difference between a judgment and an observation. Okay, and this is the best way I can explain it to you. If you're in a restaurant and they bring you a bowl of soup, and you've been waiting for that soup, and there's a fly in that soup, to say to the waiter, "Excuse me, but there's a fly in my soup. Perhaps you could get me a new bowl." That is an observation of reality. It's an observation of a fact. There is indeed a fly in the soup. Where observation becomes judgment is when we actually judge or label the poor waiter. For example, how dare you bring me a bowl of soup with a fly in it? What sort of a waiter are you? Are you an idiot? Get me a new bowl of soup. Those are all judgments. We've moved past the place of observation, and this is what I call spiritual dispassion. And it doesn't really mean like it says, okay? And you got to be careful with this, because I've had some people try and abuse this, as with everything else, okay? The labels and their interpretation of. Spiritual dispassion means you look upon what it is you're observing with no judgment whatsoever. You can observe and comment on what you see. Absolutely. In other words, if you see someone doing something dangerous without proper safety, you can observe to them that what they're doing is likely to cause harm. But if you choose to call them an idiot for what they're doing, now you've gone past observation and into judgment. You have formed an opinion about your opinion. And anytime we form an opinion about our opinion, we've moved from observation into judgment. And, you know, it's really that simple and really that difficult, because we have to be on guard how easily we judge, okay? And here's a real-world case in point from this morning. And keep in mind that I decided to add this last night. Isn't it different if someone is acting like an idiot? Someone can act like an idiot, although, you know, we got to watch the labeling there too. You know, back in the day, an idiot was a respected, paid member of the community that made everyone laugh. You know, these days an idiot usually falls into the category of someone who's doing something that we don't like, or that we don't agree with, or we call the behavior idiotic. You know, when I am going to use those words with someone, you listen carefully to the words. The behavior is idiotic. The person is not an idiot. Their current mode of behavior is idiotic. And we have to understand the difference when people are speaking to us as well, because of course most people are going to speak from the judgmental, egoic side of themselves. They've developed an opinion, in other words, a feeling about what they're thinking. And they own that, but they're going to put that on you. And we do that to everyone. We really do. Instead of us holding responsibility for our judgments, we tend to put that judgment immediately on someone else. And we always have to be on guard for that. A person is not an idiot. They may be exhibiting idiotic behavior. A person is not stupid. They may be acting stupidly. Do whatever you can to remove your unconscious judgments from things. And understand that if someone chooses, like one of the things we see all the time, and it seems to be young women for some reason, in the middle of the day, in the high heat, a woman jogging on the side of the road, on the concrete, on the main road where the traffic goes by, lots of traffic. And we both kind of shake our heads because in our observation, the goal is to increase your health and your cardiovascular capability through jogging. And yet, what the person is doing is violating that on 3 major levels. 1, they're jogging in high heat, which is never good for your body. Okay, no water bottle present. 2, they're jogging on concrete. Again, a terrible thing for your body. And the impact on concrete alone causes more hip and joint issues than people would care to realize. And 3, breathing heavily around car fumes driving by you all the time is a good way to ensure that you pollute your lungs about 3 months worth inside of the time you've gone out jogging. So these are the sort of things we must look at. An honest observation of what we're seeing, as judgmentally free as possible in our state of consciousness, versus watching our feelings about what we're thinking leak into it and then us transfer that onto someone else. That person is a fool for jogging in this heat. Their behavior is foolish, or their behavior is ignorant, but they are not ignorant and they are not a fool. Any times I caution Kelly on this all the time because she has people in her family who suffer from this, okay? And it's from what I call spiritual ego. And we've talked about this in a few of the videos on the waking up, now what? Okay, so you've woke up, now what? And in the dark night of the soul. When your universe first expands on you, you've gone down this rabbit hole, and this is the best way I can explain it to you. If you imagine a hierarchy of larger and larger and larger universes, all contained within the same space, and in between each one there's this little thin, narrow tunnel. And each time you go through that rabbit hole, that tunnel, your consciousness expands. And then your ego has to catch up to that. It really does. Part of you is still kind of hanging back in that other space, in that old level of consciousness. In Kelly's case, it's, we were talking last night and I said, honey, it's been 3.5 years of your family treating you like absolute dirt. When are you going to choose to care more about the way you feel about yourself? And stop caring about what they think. It doesn't mean you stop loving them, but you stop caring about what they do. You quit judging it. You quit judging them for it. You just let them be and do whatever it is they want to do and get on with your existence. Live your life. Become whole in yourself. Learn the lessons you need to. And then, when the time is right, those relationships will flower again, should they mean to in this existence. It is our judgments that take a rainy day and turn it into a bad day or a miserable day. And again, judgment, another word for perception. And we always have to be on guard about what we're allowing ourselves to think about and what we're allowing ourselves to feel about what we think about. Our opinions about what we think about, because they're just that. They're just opinions. They're not real. And for me, there's one rule that I try and follow all the time, and to me it is the most helpful rule you can follow. You are God manifest in this one-of-a-kind example How you judge another is reflected into the whole of creation. How do you choose to judge? Or better yet, do you choose to try to avoid judging at all and instead make dispassionate observation of what you observe? You know, if you've read Conversations with God, and it's book one, and realistically, out of the 3-book set, I would do book one, and then I would go straight to book 4, Awakening the Species. That's a very important book to get a handle on, because it talks about what highly evolved beings behave like, and that's a great place to begin. Highly evolved beings do not engage in judgment. They engage in observation of what is and dealing with what must be dealt with from an objective point of view. And they make sure that their thoughts and words and deeds are always lining up, that you're always remaining authentic. And there's a reason for that. All of our personal power, all of our creativity, and our ability to create stems from how well and how powerfully we can line up our conscious thoughts with the words we speak out into the world and the actions that we take in support of that. Hi, Devora. Good to see you. You know, I want to say that Devora was at this awesome Spirit Fest yesterday. And Devora, we better see some posts in the group page on that, because we're really excited to find out how it went. And that's awesome. We're so happy that you've done that. It must have been a great time, and we're looking forward to it. So pictures on the group post. And, you know, let's be clear about judgment, because, you know, you can't really get away from judging in some ways, okay? And what you need to do is come back to observing all the time. So I observe that I'm carrying a couple more pounds around my belly than I like to. I'm not going to stop loving myself. I'm not going to judge myself and say, well, you're fat out of shape. And you know, the eagle will do that. The eagle. Great. Now I'm matching the YouTube transcript. If you're ever downloading the transcripts, you'll see a lot of times that ego gets turned into eagle for some reason. I don't think the word ego is in their dictionary. So, you know, this is the thing. When it comes to judgments, we have to look and see how we unintentionally judge. And we really do it. We really do it. And it's as simple as, you know, in Kelly's case, it's like, well, my children aren't doing what I want, and that's why I'm frustrated. Well, what do you want them to do? Well, I want them to accept me. I want them to love me the way I want them to love me. I want them to show up. I want them to act like what? Act like the way I want them to act. This is what we do. Yeah, the eagle, pretty close, you know, full of claws and prone to flying away. And there are sneaky ways that we find ego, okay, not the eagle, but the ego, will go about causing us to judge almost unconsciously. And we've been taught in our society to judge, and one of the first things we can do is remove all the societal-based judgments. So, for example, you know, the color of your skin and anything you think in regards to someone that has to do with the color of their skin is a judgment. And we see this all the time. You know, the two black guys sitting in the Starbucks. A Mexican child is raped and murdered, and it doesn't make the news. But if it's a white girl who's raped and murdered, it's all over the country. The way we treat immigrants a lot of times, anyone that doesn't look like us or sound like us or have the same color or the same lifestyle or the same level of wealth, the same level of success by whatever measure we're using. These things all become superficial judgments that we place on another, and they become our reality. We start to live in these unconsciously judged conditions. And what we're doing is we're actually creating through that. And we begin to pile those negative judgments up higher and higher and higher until one day, if we're fortunate, we catch on to it in this existence. And we realize what a horrible person we've become through it. Not a horrible person. A person acting horribly. So when that Jehovah Witness comes to your door, and I'm the first one to not appreciate being disturbed by random visits to try to tell me that I'm doomed for hell. Okay. But there is a good intent behind them. And the person should not be judged. Even in our societal law system, I'm not sure about in the States, but here in Canada, we actually legally separate the crime from the criminal. But we don't do that at a societal level. We do that at a law level. And the person going to jail isn't going to jail for being a bad person. They're going to jail for committing a crime. And to be somehow rehabilitated. Now, that's of course what the system says. And we all know that that's exactly the opposite of what happens. Once a criminal, always a criminal. Judged by the system once, always judged by those in the system. Why? Well, you've done a crime and you've paid your time, and now you come back out to society and no one wants to hire you. You can't go get a good job. You can't get into a lot of universities. There's a lot of things you can't do that you're going to be punished with and punished by for the rest of your days and be judged on by our society. And our own self-judgment is only magnified into the macro in our communities and in our cultures and in our provinces and in our countries and in our relationships with our brothers and sisters. They are not the Iranians or the French. Yeah, Devorah brings that up. The next video under your Jehovah Witness, Jehovah Witness video. And Devorah says she's been thinking about her nephew. He's been trained to do his mission in the Mormons. Yeah, it is very mind controlling. And, at the same time, though, we have to avoid judgment in the action we take as much as possible. And this is really, really important because, like I said, we see this magnified through all levels, right? It doesn't matter whether it's an organization like a church that's doing the judging or the community, because the new people in the community, schools have got to be the worst for this. And children are taught it by their parents, okay? Let's be clear about it. Children don't know how to judge. We teach them. But you can walk into a private school where there are 6 and 7 and 8-year-old children, and if you bring in a poor child into that rich little private school, that poor child is judged and bullied to death. Why? Because mom and dad taught them how to judge. Now, if there's something that we need to remind ourselves on and how important it is that we do not judge, maybe that's it. Look what we teach our children. Our children model their ability to love, their ability to observe and to judge, and how their ego is formed. It's all modeled out of that first 13 years of life. And it doesn't matter whether you think the children are paying attention to you or not. They suck up everything like little vacuum cleaners in that first period of their life. They're wide open. The information's coming in droves, and they are sucking that up, and they are taking those judgments, and those judgments are going unconscious, and they are taking those judgments out into the world with them, and you have little tiny children already who are already racist because mom and dad taught them to be. And we're not the only ones. This is worldwide, okay? I have been in Middle Eastern countries, and there is some truth to it. Yes, okay, we have to admit, every single thing that white man has done in the Middle East has been for his own gain and ended in disaster for everyone living there. Argue all you want. That's the ultimate truth of it. Over in the Middle East, you find small countries where the children are taught to hate before they even get to school. I was not a good role model then, Cindy. Now they are adults and stuck on that. Well, here's the gift. And never forget this. Our children chose us, Cindy. What you gave the children, they needed that just from you. No matter what you may think or what little hidden pieces inside of you may have any guilt about anything in your past, your children chose you because they knew you were the best person to give them what they needed to have the journey that they're having right now. You see, and this is again where we have to watch about judgment, okay? It is so easy for us to judge our own lives and to judge the way we see the lives of others going, whether they're our children or our neighbors or our friends or our larger communities or our nations. And, you know, if you're going to judge at all, the criteria would be is you would be all-knowing. Because if you weren't all-knowing, you may be missing the tiny little piece of the puzzle that makes it all make sense. And yet that's what we do. You know, our Creator does not judge us no matter what we do. And I know it can be so hard to look at the way that we've behaved and the way we see others behaving around us. And, yeah, no, I wasn't talking about you being a racist. I was just saying not there, right? Those things that the behavior that our parents exhibited when we were young was the behavior we wanted. We wanted those lessons. You know, and a lot of times that happens, like, okay, the same happened with me, Cindy. My dad was never there and my mom was really sick. That's about the equivalent of too busy working, right? And I was upset with my mother for a long time for that, even after death, until I came to realize that I chose it. And then I understood all the benefits that came out of that. The self-sufficiency, the ability to look after myself, to deal with my own problems, because my mother was never at the school. She was never by my side. And you know what? I love her for that. And the same goes for you, Cindy, for sure. You know, we should never judge ourselves for the mistakes we've made. And we have to understand that there are no mistakes. And really, I keep coming back over and over and over to our Creator. If we believe in a Creator of love, if we believe in a Creator that holds no ill will towards any of us at any time, no matter what we do, how dare we hold that against another? Are we not the micro version of God? Is not part of being a responsible creator not judging that which we have created and the actions that which we have created cause or come into effect? And we're all in this together. You know, judging the ways that we choose to interpret and the opinions we have on what we think about these sort of things causes so much harm. And a lot of that harm is on ourselves. You know, I've been training Kelly in the fine art of letting go, okay? And the fine art of letting go means that no matter what you think about it, give it up. Surrender it. Let it go. And that's the best place to start. Even if you cannot get by the judgment, see the judgment and then decide consciously to let it go, to not care. And soon over time, you'll simply stop the judging. You'll observe. You'll observe that vehicle moving at high speed through the school zone is likely to cause an accident one day. But you'll no longer judge and become upset and do harm to your own being in regards to someone else's behavior. I'm not saying it's easy. I fall into it too. Although I try very, very hard to make sure that I always stay away from judging the person or the situation or the object, and instead try to observe what I'm taking in and a result that needs to come out of that. And when you can do that from a place of spiritual dispassion, when you can do that from that higher dimensional place without your own feelings involved, the chances of you making a wrong decision decrease dramatically. I preach letting it go better than doing it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, it's too much to do. And we've been guilty of that around the I'm not sure what Kelly wrote there. Oh. I'm really not. Honey, pick up the English keyboard. You know, it's exactly it. As Cindy says, and we've been guilty of it around the strata, we start doing too much work. We start judging the way other people are keeping their yards, and all of a sudden we're under a lot of stress and we're under a lot of pressure and we've got a lot of work on our plate. Why? Because we're piling it on ourselves through our judgments. And instead with Kelly, I'm saying understand this. Their yard is their space. If they choose to keep it that way until it inflicts upon another strata member's space, they're entitled to that. Regardless of what you may think about it, let it go. And really, that's what judgment comes down to. Stopping yourself from judgment is almost an impossibility. It takes years and years and years of practice, and to this day, I still find myself judging. But what you can do is you can recognize that you've made a judgment in that lightning quick thought and catch that judgment and let it go before you act from the space of your judgment. Because your judgment is not reality. Your judgment is your egoic take on reality filtered by your mind. Devora says, I had to help the lady yesterday to see till she's ready to let go. She's choosing to stay emotionally shut down. Yeah, and you know, Kelly suffers with this whole letting go thing as well. And we talked about letting go last night, and maybe it's good that judgment flows into letting go. And I said to Kelly, honey, you have to let this go. And she says, well, I let go sometimes. And I said, hold on a second. Letting go is kind of like being pregnant. You either have let go, or you are pregnant, or you're not pregnant, or you haven't let go. You see, because once you let go, truly let go, life sweeps you away. Why? Because it has a future for you. Life is change. You have a mission. You're here to do glorious things. It is us holding on to that little branch on the side of the shoreline, afraid to let go. Oh, now Cindy's doing it too. CDF being for the too wise you are, too wise you be, too wise you are for me. So, when it comes to letting go of our judgments is a big step towards letting go of that final branch that's holding us back. And we're the ones holding on to it. You can't keep letting go. You either let go or you don't. It's just like surrender. You don't walk up to an opposing army and say, I surrender. No, I don't. Okay, now I surrender. Oh, no, I don't. You're going to get shot. You've either surrendered or you have yet to surrender. And as Devorah said, it is like that discipline or habit we have to form. We have to continually let go in every moment of every day, over and over and over again. And anytime we find our hand holding on to something, realize that we're making a judgment. And it's the judgment that we're holding on to. It's not life. It's the judgment we're holding on to. Here's the funny part. And we're going to wrap it up shortly after this, okay? But this is really, again, I always laugh at the sheer humor of God. Like, I got to tell you, the Sea of Jesus Christ has got a really good sense of humor. We have some really good conversations, but the Sea of Consciousness has got us all beat hands down. Here's the thing. We think we're sitting at the shore holding on to the branch for dear life. We really do. And we don't want to let go of that branch. But the reality of it is you're already floating down the river and you're the only one holding on to the branch and the shore is long gone. The branch isn't attached to anything. That which you're holding on to isn't real. The branch in your hand you think is anchoring you into the past, anchoring you into the shoreline, holding you from getting swept away. You're already swept away. You're already heading down the stream. You just keep staring at the branch. You might as well let it go. It's not attached to anything anyways. Yeah, Kelly, hey? Yeah, we love Jesus. Jesus is upstairs in the bedroom. I just watered Jesus this morning. Yeah, he hangs in our bedroom. Beautiful, beautiful wandering Jew. Part of his leg fell off yesterday. I have it in a little bit of water over here. A really good point to remember in our judgments, okay? Our judgments do not reflect truth. Our judgments reflect egoic truth. And it's personal. It's only with us. We cannot and should not put that on another. And try it. Try not judging, even just for one day, and see the difference in the levels of stress and the amount of thought going on in your head. Because all of these different techniques we're talking about, all these different things we're speaking of, are really all pointed to the same thing: to make the space inside for the grace of all creation that you're literally swimming in to pour its way in, for you to be consciously aware that you're already filled with it. And letting go in judgments is a big way we could do that. So listen, we're going to wrap it up here. We have a big 1 o'clock, and we're going to have a big discussion on aliens and alien life, and how we need and can use alien help right here and now on our planet. There's a countless civilizations out there who have gone through exactly what we're going through, and the help is available to us. We refuse to reach out, and there's a lot of reasons why, and we're going to discuss those at 1 o'clock. Should be a great video. Until then, much love and namaste. It's so nice to see all of you, and I hope that we see you at 1 o'clock, and I hope this has been a little helpful in understanding judgment a little deeper. And really, if we have to sum it all up in one fairly concise couple of sentences, judgment always has a feeling attached to it, whereas observation is totally dispassionate. There is no feeling, no judgment. Judgment, feeling. Feeling, judgment. And a feeling is a product of what our body is telling us about our thoughts. So we have negative thoughts about someone, and it generates a negative feeling, and then we take that and we bundle it all up and we place it on them, and we call that a judgment. Devora, we are snagged in that neuron rut and snapped off and totally at the mercy of the river. That's it. Life in a heartbeat. Except you're not at the mercy of the river. You are manifesting the river. As soon as you figure that one out, you got her made. Much love and namaste. We'll see you at 1 o'clock. Head scratcher. Have a good morning.